The war hall of Clarion Prime smelled of blood and burning oil. Torches lined the carved stone walls, each flame reflecting against the bone armor of the assembled warlords. Above them, banners stitched from the skins of conquered foes hung like trophies. At the center, on a raised dais, General Thracuin spread his claws and roared. "Humans!" His voice thundered, amplified by the hall's acoustics and broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. "Cowards wrapped in steel! Pretenders hiding behind machines! They are not warriors! They are vermin with ships!" The warlords banged weapons against the floor in agreement. The chamber echoed with reptilian laughter, the kind that rumbled low in their throats before erupting into screeches. Thracuin turned toward the galaxy-wide feed. His scaled face filled the hollow screens, scarred from decades of campaigns. "If these humans wish to keep their systems, let them prove courage. Send your champions to face ours. If they fail, Earth kneels to the Clarion Empire." The feed cut. Silence followed. The ultimatum needed no further words. 3 days later, the war hall shook as engines roared overhead. A ship descended through the spiked gates. Not a fleet. Not a carrier. Just a single shuttle. The warlords leaned forward, confused. The crowd of lesser soldiers hissed in laughter. Was this humanity's answer? A token envoy to beg for mercy? The landing ramp dropped. 2 men walked down. The first was tall, shoulders like iron girders beneath a battered combat jacket. His hair was cropped short, face cut by old scars, eyes so still they felt inhuman. He didn't skin the crowd. He didn't need to. His presence alone filled the chamber with an unnatural gravity. The second was leaner, sharp-featured, his lips curled in an almost amused smile. His stride carried the relaxed confidence of someone walking into a familiar bar, not the capital of an enemy empire. His eyes, though, were predator's eyes, restless, dissecting every shadow, every weakness. They carried no flags. No insignias. No introductions. Just boots hitting stone. A Clarion guard stepped forward, towering over both men, armored in spiked plating, spear raised. He sneered. "2? Where is your army?" The scarred man didn't answer. The smiling one tilted his head, voice low but cutting through the chamber. "We brought enough." The laughter that followed was deafening. Warlords slammed their claws against the ground in amusement, their fanged mouths snapping open. To them, this was beyond insult, it was absurd. General Thracuin rose from his throne, his massive form dwarfing his retinue. His armor gleamed with the skulls of defeated champions mounted on his pauldrons. His tongue flicked in disdain. "Is this your defiance, humans? 2 against an empire?" The silent man lifted his gaze, eyes locking with the general's. He didn't blink. Didn't flinch. For the first time in decades of campaigns, Thracuin felt something crawl beneath his scales, unease. The second man smirked. "You asked for warriors? We sent legends." Preparations for the duel moved quickly. The Clarions wasted no time in staging spectacle. They converted their great parade ground into an arena, ringed with spires, each bearing the crest of a conquered species. Alien dignitaries filled the stands, expecting blood sport. The humans were led to the center without resistance. No weapons were given. Their opponents entered from the opposite gates, 10-foot reptilian champions clad in bone armor, ceremonial axes gleaming under the floodlights. Drums pounded, deep and relentless. The crowd roared, chanting in guttural rhythm. A gong echoed. The duel began. The reptilian champion charged, each step cracking stone. His axe came down like a falling meteor. The scarred man didn't move until the very last instant. He shifted sideways, calm as a shadow. The axe struck ground, sparks flying. His hand closed on the alien's wrist. One twist, one snap, bone shattered. The champion screamed. The human didn't speak. He simply tore the weapon free and drove the blunt edge into the alien's throat. The body collapsed, blood pooling black under the lights. Silence gripped the crowd. The second champion squared off with the smiling man. He circled slowly, weapon raised. The human spoke conversationally, as though sharing a secret. You're already dead. Your body just hasn't realized yet. The reptilian snarled and lunged. A feint, a misstep. The human slid inside his guard, drove a knife hand into his throat, then twisted the warrior's own blade into his chest. The alien's eyes widened in disbelief before the life drained out of them. The smiling man let the corpse fall, wiping his hand against his jacket like dust. Messy. Murmurs rippled through the stands. This was not how duels were supposed to look. Humans were supposed to flail, to die screaming, to beg. Not dismantle champions with surgical ease. General Thrakuin slammed his clawed fist against his throne. This is dishonor! Treachery! Where is the courage in this butchery? The smiling human raised his voice just enough to carry. Courage? He gestured to the scarred man beside him. Courage is two men walking alone into your empire. His grin sharpened. And courage is watching your warriors die without fear. The scarred man finally spoke, his voice a low growl. This is only the beginning. The drums faltered. The laughter had gone. In its place, an unease spread through the alien ranks, whispered in fragments that echoed like ghosts. Boogeyman. Baba Yaga. Names traveling faster than weapons. That night, in the shadowed barracks of the alien stronghold, soldiers spoke in hushed tones. They told stories of humans that did not sleep, of predators who stalked battlefields unseen, of assassins that killed without sound. What had been mockery that morning became something else entirely. General Thrakuin stood alone on his balcony, gazing across the torchlit city. He clenched his claws, furious at the shift he could feel spreading among his troops. His honor demanded he crush it at once. But behind the fury, buried deep, something gnawed at him. He had demanded proof of humanity's courage. And Earth had answered. Not with an army. Not with fleets. But with nightmares given flesh. The arena lights flared brighter at dawn. Stone spires loomed high, casting jagged shadows over the blood-stained floor where the first champions had fallen the night before. The air was thick with the stench of scorched metal and reptilian blood. Soldiers filled the stands, silent now, their earlier jeering replaced by an uneasy hush. The humans stood at the center. Jack, silent, cold, his jacket still streaked dark from the fight, surveyed the space with eyes that moved, but never wandered. Beside him, Nikolai rolled his shoulders as if waking from a nap, a faint smile tugging at his lips. From the opposite gates came the next challengers. This time not 2, but 4. Massive warriors clad in spiked armor, each carrying twin axes. Their scales glistened under the light. They didn't roar for spectacle, they advanced with intent, knowing underestimation had already cost them. The gong sounded. One warrior lunged straight at Jack, axes spinning in a blur. Jack pivoted once, slipped past the swing, and drove a fist into the alien's ribcage. The crack carried across the arena. Before the clarion could fall, Jack hooked an arm around its throat and wrenched. The body slumped lifeless, discarded like trash. Nikolai faced 2 at once. He didn't rush. He stepped between their arcs, letting their swings collide with each other. One stumbled. Nikolai's knife appeared as if conjured, buried into the exposed throat. He let the corpse fall, eyes flicking to the second warrior. The alien snarled and raged. Nikolai grinned. Good. Anger makes you clumsy. The reptilian swung too wide. Nikolai caught his arm, twisted until the bone tore through scale, and shoved the warrior onto his knees. A blade across the neck ended it with a spray of black ichor. The last warrior tried to back away from Jack, eyes darting. Too late. Jack closed the distance, expression unchanged. He caught the axe mid-swing, tore it free, and drove the weapon into the alien's chest, the impact so brutal the stone beneath cracked. Silence fell again. Nikolai wiped the blade on his sleeve. Messy work for an audience. He gestured toward the terrified crowd. Do you still call this cowardice? No laughter answered. General Thrakuin rose from his throne above the arena, claws scraping the armrests. His voice thundered, but it lacked the same certainty as before. This is not courage. You twist duels into slaughter. You have no honor. Nikolai's smile sharpened. Honor? He tilted his head toward Jack. My friend doesn't speak much, so I'll explain for him. Honor is comfort. Honor is rules. We didn't come here to play by your games. We came to end them. Jack finally spoke, voice low but carrying across the arena like gravel dragged across steel. You call us cowards. Yet your champions run. The crowd shifted, scales rattling in unease. They had seen it too. The last warrior had faltered, tried to retreat before Jack broke him. The word coward no longer applied to the humans. It hung instead over their own champions. The next wave of combatants refused to enter. 6 stood at the gates, axes raised, but none stepped forward. Their eyes flicked toward the fallen, then back to the humans waiting calmly in the center. Fear rippled through their ranks. From the throne, Thrakuin bared his teeth. Fight, or be stripped of rank! Still, hesitation froze them. Soldiers in the stands whispered among themselves, old stories resurfacing. The humans had names older than any empire, names whispered to frighten children into obedience. Boogeyman. Baba Yaga. Nikolai leaned close to Jack, voice low. See it? Fear spreads faster than fire. Jack gave the faintest nod. It's already burning. Finally, under their general's glare, the 6 champions advanced. Jack moved first, a blur of efficient violence. He drove one into the wall with such force the spine cracked on impact. Another swung high. Jack ducked, ripped the axe from its hands, and buried it in its chest. Each movement precise, brutal, final. Nikolai fought like a wolf circling prey. He whispered as he slipped around them, words meant only for alien ears. I know how you'll die. Do you want me to tell you? His laughter was soft, cruel, echoing in their minds. One warrior faltered, panic breaking his rhythm. Nikolai struck instantly, cutting tendon, dropping him to his knees. The blade slid across the throat, slow, deliberate. Another tried to rally courage, charging blindly. Nikolai stepped aside, let the momentum carry him forward, and drove a knife into the base of the skull. By the time the dust settled, only 2 humans stood. 6 more Clerians lay dead. The crowd was no longer silent. They whispered feverishly, shifting in their seats, eyes darting to the exits as if escape were suddenly necessary. Nikolai raised his arms, blood dripping from his sleeves. This was your test. Did you expect honor? Did you expect us to play? He gestured toward the fallen bodies. You demanded proof of courage. We walked into your nest alone. Tell me, do cowards do that? Jack's eyes found Thrakuin on his throne. He didn't speak, but the message was clear. Alarms blared across the fortress. Officers shouted into comms, confusion spreading. Reports spilled into the war hall, patrols missing, barracks empty, watchtowers silent. Soldiers were vanishing without a trace. Thrakuin's eyes narrowed. What trickery is this? Nikolai chuckled softly. Trickery? No. Preparation. He tapped his temple. While you waited for spectacle, we were already inside your walls. The general snarled, his voice cracking with rage. You will not frighten us with shadows. Jack's gaze never wavered. Shadows don't frighten. We do. The war hall shook as another alarm screamed louder. A squad rushed in, panic in their eyes. General! The West Wing is gone. All 30 men dead. No survivors. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some warlords roared in denial, others hissed in fear. The stories were no longer whispers. They spread like wildfire. The humans weren't men. They were phantoms, predators that walked unseen. Thrakuin tried to roar above the noise, but the sound faltered against the growing tide of dread. His empire had demanded proof. Now it had it, 2 men dismantling an army piece by piece, feeding terror with every corpse left behind. Nikolai's grin widened. And so the game begins. The fortress of Clarion Prime no longer roared with confidence. Its corridors, once filled with the steady rhythm of marching boots, now echoed with silence broken only by distant alarms. Patrols had vanished. Watchtowers burned. Whole wings of the garrison lay emptied, their soldiers found strung up in grotesque displays meant to be warnings. The warnings worked. Fear spread faster than orders. Warriors clutched weapons too tightly, flinched at shadows, and shot at each other in panic. The word coward was gone from their tongues, replaced with a name whispered like a curse. Boogeyman. Baba Yaga. The predators of Earth had become myths made flesh, and the myths were walking the halls. General Thrakuin stood in his war hall, claws drumming against the armrest of his throne. The chamber was empty save for his elite guard. His generals refused to enter. His soldiers hid rather than face two men. The dishonor of it ignited his rage, but beneath the fire, something colder gnawed at him. He had commanded wars across half the stars, but he had never fought an enemy that spread terror before striking. The doors creaked. Two humans entered. No fanfare, no wasted motion, just the steady rhythm of boots across stone. Jack led, eyes locked on the general, expression unreadable. Behind him, Nikolai moved like a shadow that smiled. The elite guard stepped forward, their scaled forms blocking the path. Spears lowered, axes raised. The humans didn't slow. Jack's voice came, low and flat. Move! The guards snarled in defiance. What followed was not battle. It was execution. Jack's fists broke armor as if it were wood. His knife-hand strike collapsed a throat, his boot shattered a knee, his borrowed axe split a skull. He didn't grunt, didn't roar, didn't speak. Each strike was final, efficient, silent. Nikolai was different, graceful, surgical, cruel. He slipped past swings, cutting tendons, whispering words the dying couldn't understand but feared all the same. His blades slid through gaps in armor like he'd known them his whole life. One guard dropped his weapon and tried to flee. Nikolai's knife caught him in the spine before he reached the door. In less than a minute, the elite guard lay broken around the chamber. Jack and Nikolai stood over the corpses, unbothered, eyes fixed on Thrakuin. The general rose to his full height, towering, armored in bones of 100 fallen enemies. His eyes burned with fury. Enough games. You want courage? Face me. He drew a massive war blade, its edge jagged, its hilt carved from the fang of some ancient beast. He stomped forward, the ground trembling under his weight. Nikolai smirked. Finally! Thrakuin struck first, his blade arcing in a blow meant to split a man in two. Jack caught it on the haft of the fallen guard's spear, the impact shaking the hall. He shoved back, eyes still calm, muscles uncoiling with brutal force. The general pressed, each swing powerful enough to cleave stone. Jack absorbed the onslaught, deflecting, redirecting, never breaking his cold stare. Nikolai circled, waiting, knife glinting. He's strong, he said conversationally. But strong breaks the same as weak. With a roar, Thrakuin slammed his blade down. Jack stepped aside. The weapon buried itself deep into the floor. In that half-second of opening, Jack's fist slammed into the general's ribs. Bone cracked. Thrakuin staggered back, fury twisting his features. You are tricks and shadows. Nothing more! Nikolai's voice cut like a whisper. No. We're inevitability. He lunged, blade flashing. The general swung wildly, grazing Nikolai's arm, drawing blood. Nikolai laughed, even as the cut dripped red. Finally! You hit something. The distraction was enough. Jack moved in. His knee drove into Thrakuin's chest, knocking the air from his lungs. A second strike to the throat forced him back, choking. The warlord stumbled, balance faltering. Jack tore the war blade from his grip and held it effortlessly. He stared at the weapon, then at its former wielder. With one swift motion, he drove the jagged edge into the general's chest. Thrakuin roared in denial, but the sound broke into a wet gurgle. He collapsed to his knees, the strength leaking from his limbs. His eyes darted from Jack's silent face to Nikolai's cold grin. Jack's voice, low and final, echoed across the chamber. You called us cowards. Now your empire hides from two men. Nikolai crouched before the dying general, meeting his fading gaze. Remember this when you cross into whatever pit your kind believes in, Earth doesn't send armies. We send nightmares. With that, Jack twisted the blade. The light went out in Thrakwan's eyes. The war hall fell still. The torches flickered, their flames dimming under the weight of silence. Outside, words spread faster than sound. The general was dead. The boogeyman and the Baba Yaga had killed him. In the streets of Clarion Prime, soldiers dropped weapons, civilians fled indoors, commanders shouted into dead calms. No order could hold back the tide. The Empire had demanded proof of courage, and now every soul on the planet knew the truth. Humanity did not fight fair. Humanity did not bow to codes of honor. Humanity fought to win, and it won by fear. The two men walked from the war hall without hurry, boots echoing against stone. No one tried to stop them. The Empire had already surrendered, not by treaty, not by negotiation, but by terror. At the gates, a lone alien officer stood frozen, watching them pass. His voice trembled. "What are you?" Jack didn't answer. He kept walking. Nikolai paused, glanced back with a smile that held no warmth. "What you tell your children to fear in the dark." Then they were gone, swallowed by the shadows of the city they had broken. Far above, the galaxy listened. Every broadcast, every whisper carried the same story. Two men had walked into the heart of an empire and left it in ruins. Humanity was no longer mocked. Humanity was no longer underestimated. From that day forward, the stars remembered Earth by two names: Boogeyman, Baba Yaga.